An entitled Karen doesn't get her way after she tries to return an item to our store that she definitely did not buy here. And after screaming and cussing at me as well as demanding a manager, this entitled Karen stormed out of our store, but not before throwing the item at my head in a fit of rage. Here's what happened. I used to work retail at a mom and pop costume store. It was the Saturday before Halloween, and I was working the register closest to the door, which meant that I was handling returns and exchanges. Like most costume stores, all sales were final at our store. That being said, we did our best to accommodate customers and would exchange sizes or issue refunds for costumes with manufacturer defects. And we would also do repairs on items that were just really poorly made. About 30 minutes into the shift, this woman came in for a return and is told by the greeter that I can help her with what she needs. She walks up to my register, completely ignoring the fact that I'm in the middle of checking someone out, and starts to tell me that she needs to do a return. Well, I stop her and I tell her I heard her conversation with the greeter, but she will have to wait until I'm done with my current transaction. She rolled her eyes at me, but she did step aside. Once I was done, she hands me a dog's lobster costume and tells me that she needs to return it. I ask her if she has the receipt and the reason for returning it. She says she doesn't have the receipt and that it was too small for her dog. I explain to her that all sales are final, but if she wants to exchange the size, we can try and do that. She starts trying to argue with me, but I stop her and I tell her that before we could do anything else, I need to look up her receipt. The best way to go about doing this is to scan the item and look up the sales history itself. But when I go to do that, nothing comes up. I then try a keyword search, but I still come up with nothing, and I even check the item list for the manufacturer, but I still come up empty-handed. I then ask the woman if she is sure that she got it at our store, because as far as I can tell, we just don't sell it. Well, this apparently was the worst thing I could have said, because what she does next honestly blows my mind. She then starts shrieking and cursing that of course she's sure. I ask her if she's got her credit card app on her phone and can show me the transaction on her end, as that might help me find it, but she just continues to shriek at me and refuses to comply. She then points to a generic price sticker on the front and tells me that this is our store's price sticker. I pick up another item and show her what our store's price sticker actually looks like, but at this point she is literally turning red and cussing up a storm. And it was right then that she demanded to speak to a manager. However, our owner was standing at the register next to me the entire time. He says that he's been listening in and there's absolutely nothing else we can do for her unless we can track down some kind of record of the purchase. She then shrieks and curses some more and goes to storm out of the store, but right as she reaches the door, she turns around and throws the costume at me. But thankfully, I duck sideways and it misses me. I call after her and I just say, "Have a good day." And afterwards, the owner asked me if I'm okay, to which I just shrugged and I said, "I think so." I then picked up the costume, tossed it in our lost and found, and then continued on with my day. And the next customer that I checked out actually complimented me on my reflexes. At the end of Halloween, we would always have a little party and our owner would get us a cake. That year, one of my coworkers who was also an artist drew a cartoon of a lobster lady to put on the cake so that we could all devour her. A few weeks after Halloween, when we were going through the lost and found, I picked up the costume and I asked our owner what should I do with it, since no one had ever returned for it. He just shrugged and told me to keep it because I had earned it. And I'm honestly just so done dealing with entitled Karens like this, because they definitely make my job at customer service an absolute nightmare. Okay, if there's anything I've ever learned from customer service, it's basically that if anybody escalates to the point where they're yelling and screaming, they're only doing that so they can manipulate the situation and try to force you into submission. They're trying to scare you or scream at you and try to put you in a place where like your heart is beating and you're really nervous. And trust me, if you've worked customer service, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the entitled Karen in this story is no different. She knew for a fact going into that store that she did not buy that stupid costume at that store. And she knew that the only way she would try to get any kind of money out of this place was by freaking out and acting like a psychopath. And that's the only reason she started screaming. Not because there was some kind of actual injustice going on, but because this spoiled brat was not getting her way. So truly, I think you handled this like a pro, and you did exactly what you need to do to get her out of the store. And hopefully nothing like this ever happens to you ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for leaving my best friend at the bar after she grabbed my plate and refused to give it back to me until I apologized to her? Because right now we are not talking to each other, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my friend and I have been friends for over 4 years. For the sake of the story, we'll call her Margaret. Margaret Margaret is not her real name. And this incident happened towards the end of February this year. Margaret and I had decided to meet up for drinks and just to catch up after we hadn't seen each other since the beginning of January. Everything was going well on the girls' day out until Margaret started getting tipsy. I had shown her a picture of the Valentine's Day setup my boyfriend had done for me 2 weeks prior. I don't really post on socials anymore, so this was her first time seeing it, and when she saw it, her entire aura completely changed. The conversation started getting confrontational, and Margaret asked why I had not been checking up on her and how I had been putting our friendship on the back burner. She accused me of not being able to balance a boyfriend and my friendships. To add more context, when I had seen Margaret in January, it was during her stay at a mental health center. She had mentioned needing a breather, so I picked her up from the facilities and we spent a day by the beach. After this day, our WhatsApp conversations were sparse, with me checking if she's alright and vice versa. Early February, I had a familial issue I was dealing with and completely went quiet on all my acquaintances and friends. But this was excluding my boyfriend, who I basically live with at this point. I guess she saw the Valentine's Day pictures and thought clearly that yes, you were present enough to celebrate that. Now back to the girls' day out. Her mood is now completely flipped. She grabs the plate of food I'm eating from and she says to me, "You're not getting this until you explain why you abandoned me." Now mind you, the people around us at the bar are all looking at us now. I tell her this is very immature and I send her my portion of the bill and then I just leave. She calls me multiple times after I leave and texts me by saying, "What's up?" She eventually sends a text message a couple of days later, apologizing entirely for her behavior. Now I guess my mistake was responding to the text message 4 days later accepting the apology, because we have not spoken ever since then. So am I the jerk here? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think this is the result of your friend being completely drunk and clearly having like unspoken harsh feelings towards you for not checking in with her, which is really not a fair thing to do. Like, the phone does work both ways, and I understand that she went through like a mental health crisis or something like that, but that does not give her a license to be like, "Wow, you need to check up on me all the time." It's like, no, what are you talking about? Your triggers and your mental health, that's like your personal responsibility. And sure, maybe someone wasn't checking in on you, but last I checked, they're not your mother. So for her to be like, "You're not getting your food back until you tell me what's going on and why you abandoned me," that is such a toxic thing to say, and it puts the original poster in a corner that they do not deserve to be in. So no, you are not the jerk for getting up and leaving, and honestly, I don't blame you for waiting to respond, because this kind of behavior does not deserve to be rewarded with quick responses. And if she doesn't like that, then she needs to work on herself instead of taking it out on you. Am I the jerk for refusing to take care of my sister when our mother passes away, as my father feels that I need to let her move into my home so that she can stay afloat? But after watching her live basically rent-free with my mother, as well as doing all these things to help out my mother while my sister does nothing, I've decided that I will not be helping in any kind of way. And now my dad is furious with me and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so basically my father expects me to move my sister in and take care of her like a child or something like that. For reference, my sister is 37 years old and she is more than capable of getting a job and becoming an adult, but everyone always allowed her to get away with being childish. She is healthy and mentally all there, but she has just never had a job or license. She lives with our mother, whose health is no longer great. Now I'm 39 years old and I have 3 kids and I work 60 hours a week. I have no plans or interests in raising or taking care of anyone else. I already take our mother to her doctor's appointments and other appointments. I bring her meals and make sure that she is taking her medicines. Recently, my father asked what I was going to do about my sister when our mother passes away. And for context, she had a bad health scare and was in the hospital for weeks. He knew I was bringing groceries to my sister and making sure bills were paid while she was in the hospital. But you know what I said? I told him that she can live on the streets. When I said that, he got upset and said that I can't do that to her. But I told him that I have no plans on taking care of any more people. And that's because I've been doing that since I was a child. I told him that if he didn't want her to be homeless, then he can move her in, which is something his wife won't allow. He thinks that I'm being unreasonable and cruel, but I told him that I don't think she's my problem. So am I the jerk for feeling that way? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. From what you described, your sister is capable of getting a job, and she is an adult who could get everything done if she needed to. She is more than capable to step up and do what needs to get done so that she can survive. But instead of doing that, she's living with her mother and basically living rent-free. And that's like really not fair for anybody involved. So for your dad to step in and be like, "Well, what are we gonna do about your sister when your mom passes away?" Like, that's really funny to me, because how on earth is that the original poster's problem? Because from the sounds of it, this lady just sounds really lazy. And I know if I was in the original poster's shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that I did not want her there when I get home from deployment? Because right now she's saying that I don't care about her, claiming that her caring son is completely gone and that I only care about my wife. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male and I've been deployed for the last 10 months and I will be getting home in 1 week. My wife and I's plans was for her to be the only one to know what date I was coming back, so that when I get leave, we can go back and surprise all of our family and friends. My wife visited home a couple of weeks ago for a family event, and while she was there, she spent a day with my mom and her 2 younger sisters. Now, it's important to know that my mom is very pushy and hates surprises, so much so that me surprising her by coming home would literally just make her mad at me. Because of this, my wife and I knew that we would eventually have to tell her, but we are waiting until the last minute because she would have told my sisters if she knew my date. Well, while my wife was there, my mom pushed and pushed, telling her that she wouldn't speak to her, she wouldn't let the girls go places, and that she had to know so that she could take days off work. Well, my wife gave her a week range of my leave, which is a couple of weeks after I get back, so that way she could just request the time off. Well, my mom texted me today telling me that she would be here for the welcome home when our plane lands. I asked if she cleared this with my wife, seeing as she apparently planned to stay with us in our 1-bedroom apartment, and she said no. I then asked if the girls knew and were coming, and she said no again. Now, my mom has done a few things that presses between my wife and I, so I just lost it on her. I told her that I wouldn't be giving her the date that I fly in, and that if I wanted her there, I would want my sisters there as well. I stopped there until she started complaining that she was a single mom who raised me on her own, and that I should want to see her first. That's when I told her that I didn't want her in my house at all when I first get home. I am a married grown man now. I don't need my mom. I want to see and spend time with my wife first and foremost. She pressed me further by saying, "I've been here for you since you were born. She's been here for only 4 years," with her eventually leading to trash talking my wife, saying that she doesn't even have a real job and doesn't contribute. My wife is a nanny while she is in school, and she gets paid well, so she absolutely does contribute more than enough. And this is where I may be the jerk. I told my mom that I was tired of her badgering and that I wanted to come home to my wife and be alone in our home with our pets. My wife and I would not want to host her, and we wanted the house to ourselves. Well, when I said that, my mom cried, and she sent me long paragraph text messages every few hours about how she doesn't know where her caring son went, and how I have no care for my family at all. So I need to know, am I the jerk for responding in the way that I did? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, I do not think that you're the jerk in the slightest, because seriously, it is so important to stand up to your mom. She sounds incredibly pushy and very disrespectful, and it really seems like she wants to control your life and your situation entirely. So honestly, good for you for saying something, because this is a conversation that was going to happen eventually, and I think that it was better to get it out of the way now than to wait until it really gets bad. Am I the jerk for being a little uncomfortable on contributing a lot of money for my brother's baby shower? Because right now what he is asking is completely out of line, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 30-year-old female and I have a brother who is 33 years old. He and his husband are in the process of adopting 2 babies from 2 different women. My brother makes around $95,000 a year and his husband makes about $80,000, with the both of them being teachers in a high-paying district. I'm single and I'm also a teacher, but I make about $60,000 a year, and I just bought a house last year. I do not get paid over the summer, and I'm in 2 weddings coming up, which also takes a lot of money. My brother and his husband are understandably very excited and want to have a baby shower to help get stuff for possibly 2 babies. One baby is due September 26th, and the other is October 15th. Now, here's where things get a bit dicey. They want to have a big fancy baby shower with possibly 100 guests or even more. He said it will be like a mini wedding, and even got into a fight with his mother-in-law about the cost of a venue and expecting them to shell out the money for it. She called him spoiled and he got very offended. And of course, I want to help out as much as I can. I offered to make the invitations and to help organize stuff, but as I talk with my brother, I realize just how much he's expecting me and his sister-in-law to contribute, since all the parents and themselves are paying over $6,500 for the venue, the food, and the drinks. From what I understand, he mentioned that he would cover decorations, centerpieces, favors, setting up, doing the seating chart, and all this other stuff, which is reasonable. But then he started mentioning mini me bottles of champagne for each person as a favor, as well as having a photo booth and other extras just like that on top of a gift. When I said all of that is a lot of money, he said to me, "Just be glad I'm not asking you to contribute to paying for the venue like I was originally gonna do." Now, of course, I want to spoil my nieces and help out as much as I can. And maybe it's that they just expect me to pull out all this money without asking that's really bothering me. I've also always been the money conscious one and even helped bail my brother out of credit card debt a few years ago. So am I the jerk in this situation for feeling uncomfortable? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because it sounds like your brother and his husband are going well above and beyond what a baby shower should be. And for him to expect that his family's gonna sponsor that and have some big lavish party, that in my opinion is so unacceptable. That's so burdensome on everybody around him, and it is completely unfair. So you know what? If I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way. I would be upset that he's basically asking me to shell out money and that I somehow am responsible for his stupid party, because that is not fair and you definitely do not deserve that. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that I can't trust her anymore after she goes out of her way to take things out of my closet and then donate them without my permission? Here's what happened. Earlier today, I had an argument with my mom, which led to me telling her I couldn't trust her, in which she called me rude and said that I had an overreaction. Now, for years, my mom has had this bad habit of secretly donating our clothes without telling us. Sometimes it was stuff that she thought was too small for us, but most of the time, it was just clothing that she didn't like or just didn't want us to wear anymore. For example, I really like professional wrestling, and I have received many t-shirts of my favorite wrestlers as gifts over the years. Yet the only one I still have is from this past November. My mom doesn't understand why I love wrestling, probably because I'm a girl. And even when I've tried to ask where my merchandise is gone, she just always shooed me off. The donation bag would always be in her closet, so if I noticed I was missing an item or clothing, odds are it would be in the donation bag. Since as early as middle school, when I started noticing that she would take my clothes, I always asked her to please check with me before donating any of my clothes. But of course she didn't do that, and she continued picking things out of the laundry, or even go as far as going into my drawers and closet to take things. A few months ago, I found a really nice dress of mine that I bought in a donation bag, and I just blew up, screaming and begging her to ask me anytime she would donate clothing. This seemed to really get to her, as she stopped taking things until earlier today. In the car with her today, I looked in the back seat and I noticed the donation bag, but peeking out was the arm of a sweater I had literally bought last week. I grabbed the bag and noticed my last remaining wrestling t-shirt, as well as about 5 pairs of socks and even some bowls and plates I had bought for my apartment next year. We began arguing, with her not giving me a clear reason why those were in the donation bag, and I told her that because she went back on her word, I literally just couldn't trust her anymore. And I think it was a valid reaction, but she disagrees. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and honestly, the fact that your mom is taking your stuff and giving it away, all without your permission by the way, is completely out of line. And if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Am I the jerk for outing my cousin on social media, stating that she owes me over $2,000 after she claimed that she was super successful in her life? Here's what happened. So my cousin, who we will call Deborah, cost me over $2,000 in our interstate holiday last year. She accidentally and recklessly slammed the door of our rental car into the neighboring parked car. The rental car was under my name, and consequently, I was liable for the excess payment. It's been over 8 months and she has yet to pay me back. Deborah argued that the rental car was shared amongst all 7 cousins, and that accidents were a part of the risk of sharing a rental vehicle. Given that all the cousins had initially agreed to split the cost of the trip, this $2,000 should also be split. Now, some of the cousins were on board, but others were not, and I definitely wasn't. I didn't agree to split the cost of entirely avoidable and reckless mistakes. Either way, because we couldn't come to an agreement, what ended up happening was that no one has paid me a cent. After a few months of hounding Deborah and largely getting ignored, she broke down in tears, claiming that she's financially struggling at the moment and can barely make ends meet. For context, Deborah is an accountant at one of the country's biggest accounting firms, and she has to be making at least $100,000 a year. So she isn't struggling financially. She's just really bad with her finances. But whatever, I'll just let it slide. And honestly, I forgot about the $2,000 until last weekend. Deborah posted a photo of an expensive necklace with a caption saying, "Hard work pays off. Success isn't easy, but it is shiny." I looked up the necklace and it cost about $880. Well, I responded by saying, if you were half as successful as you are pretending to be, you'd pay me back the $2,000 $2,000 that you owe me. Now, honestly, I wasn't thinking. I was just acting out of anger, but unexpectedly, people started reacting to my comment, leaving their own comment saying stuff like, "Oh, Deborah owes you money as well, huh?" As well as people saying, "Oh, I see Deborah hasn't changed a bit." But honestly, that wasn't my intention. But I would be lying if I say I didn't find it funny. Now, Deborah deleted her post several hours later, but hasn't said a word to me ever since. However, she must have complained to the other cousins because 2 of our cousins reached out and said that I went too far and that I should have kept the matter within the family, which is easy for them to say because they're not the ones out $2,000. Now, before I let my anger get the better of me, am I the jerk in this situation or am I in the right here? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk for calling her out because honestly, it seems like she's done this to a lot of other people. This is literally her reaping exactly what she sowed, because if she had just paid you back, all of this could have been avoided. So no, you did not do anything wrong, and honestly, I don't blame you for calling her out in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.